the entire police department here for the evening, and also introducing the Boy Scouts to do the flag presentation. So if you would please come on up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
May I have your attention? Please rise. Salute. Color guard, advance. Color guard, post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
Boy Scouts. So thank you everyone who came out to help us send off our current chief and welcome the new chief. For anyone who has had, had the opportunity to meet Chief Williams, you know what a welcoming and caring person he is in and around the community and all the work that he's helped them fostering that relationship with the community. I know when I joined the select board, he was one of the first people there to graciously welcome me aboard, and Chief Joy was the other one, not quite in the same manner. It all ended well. Anyway, so Chief Williams has had 25 years in law enforcement and has absolutely done an amazing job for the town, especially when it comes to working on building that enhanced relationship with the community, the school, the businesses, and the neighboring agencies. 16 years of it was with the Stratford County Sheriff's Department, and then 4 years here in Barrington, leading kind of a really great transition into the new era of law enforcement that you see here, building a community that was focused on the guardian principle and the guardian principle. And I was like, we're not the warrior principle here. So it really has helped kind of drive Barrington into a positive direction. And I think it was a positive direction before, but it's a different direction. It feels a little different, and I think we have a great force that we're happy to have. So with that, I would also like to just take a quick moment and talk about thanking him for everything that he's done and welcoming Officer George Joy as he comes on now as the new police chief for us. Chief Joy's had 20 years of service here in Barrington. With that, he started as a patrol sergeant, or patrol officer, rose to the rank of sergeant, then lieutenant, deputy chief, and now to be our chief of police. He's demonstrated an unbelievable commitment and dedication to the Barrington community with all 20 years of his law enforcement in Barrington. And also recognizing that he's going to work a lot towards staff retention, long-term space needs for the police department. They just underwent, for anyone who doesn't know, a fairly decent renovation to bridge the gap until we make the next level of change. And then also succession management is how do we continue growing and making sure we're doing it in a way that is well-planned, well-thought out, and doesn't put us in a position where when he decides he has had enough, that we have a well-rounded workforce, police force to transition over and move on. So with that, I would like to present a letter from the governor that Bob's wife Helen had done for his 25 years of service. And it's just a citation for his excellence for Chief Robert Williams on his retirement after 25 years in law enforcement service. Robert served as the Barrington Police Chief for 4 years. During his tenure, Chief Williams made a positive impact on his community and the Barrington Police Department. On behalf of the citizens of New Hampshire, I commend Chief Robert Williams for his service and wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. So thank you, Helen, for doing this. I also would like to recognize not only Bob's wife Helen, but his daughter Carmela, who's actually the basketball game right now. So thanking them for everything that having a spouse or a dad, in this case, in law enforcement and what it is and what it means. So I also would like to present Chief Williams with his badge in recognition of his 25 years of law enforcement. So I'm going to give Chief Williams an opportunity to say a few words here, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Joy after I introduce him.
Thank you all for coming. I'd like to just start off by recognizing somebody that did 28 years as Chief of Police here in Barrington. He's here tonight. I did 25, and that was from an entry-level position all the way up to chief. This person, Richard Conway, did 28 years as the Barrington Police Chief in total. So please welcome It's been an honor and privilege to serve as the Barrington Police Chief. Thank you. Thank you to the past and present board members that are here tonight. Thank you to John Scruton, the former town administrator, Connor McIver, the current town administrator, our Barrington community, our law enforcement community, thank you for coming tonight. And our Barrington officers, thank you for choosing Barrington as your police career. Thank you so much. And my parents, Russ and Elena Williams, who are sitting in the back. They raised 7 sons. Can you imagine that? I'm number 6. But God bless you, Mom and Dad. Thank you so much for your support. My mother and father-in-law that have known me since I was 16 years old when I showed up in Barrington to pick up their daughter. So thank you, Bob and Myrtle Johnson, for your support and keeping me on the straight and narrow when I wasn't at home with my folks. Thank you so much. And especially to my wife, Helen, thank you for 25 years of loving support. I couldn't have done it without her support. Anyone that's in the profession knows that with success comes a strong level of support from your family. So, and I believe it's going to ring true in George's case with his son and wife here with us tonight. So thank you. George, thank you for all your hard work, and I mean that. Thank you so much. I've lived in the community since 98. My wife's a native. My brother's been here for many years, so from my family to yours, thank you so much for being here for the last 20 years. With that level of dedication, I'm proud that I'm going to call you Chief Joy. So thank you so much. That's it, short and sweet, like I promised. So thank you all for coming tonight to honor me and George as the next Barrington Police Chief. Thank you so much. All right. Kim, if you wouldn't mind coming on to swear in Deputy Chief Joy as Chief Joy. And George, if you wouldn't mind coming out. Just one last thing that I'd like to really say about this is, for anybody who doesn't know, when we were looking, or when the select board was looking for Chief Williams, Chief Joy was actually, or Deputy Chief Joy, who was not Deputy Chief at the time, was lieutenant at the time and was in the running for that position, and was one of the top candidates in a nationwide search for that role. So we're beyond blessed to actually have him here to be swearing in as our chief. So with that, I would also like to thank his wife Bobby and his son Connor for being here. And Connor, if you wouldn't mind coming up, because after he's sworn in, you're going to pin his badge on. All right.
I, George Joy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all the duties
discharge and perform all the duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as police chief for the town of Barrington,
as police chief of the town of Barrington,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules
agreeably to the rules
and regulations of the Constitution
and regulation of the Constitution
and laws of the state of New Hampshire.
and laws of the state of New Hampshire.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So I promise I won't break the walker. I'm going to keep this short. 3 minutes? I'll try to keep it under 3. My parents can't be here, they're traveling. If they were, my mom would tell you that every speech I've ever prepared in my life I've thrown out and just rolled. So I'm going to do the same thing tonight. I'd like to thank the board for showing their support and their faith in me. I'll do what I can to make you proud. The same for T.A. McIver, very intelligent young man, and he's shown full support for me throughout this process, and I want to thank you for that. I normally keep my profession and my family separated. Tonight's one of the few that's changing, so thank you, Billy, thank you, Connor, for being here. If you look to the back of the room, folks, we have literally centuries of law enforcement experience in this room right now. There are high-ranking officials from multiple agencies here. Chief Conway hired me as years prior to that. There's a wealth of knowledge here. More police knowledge has been forgotten than I retain in my body that's standing in this room right now. There are chiefs, there are sergeants from large agencies. The delineation is clear, and if you look at the cops on the right-hand side are my people. Those are the K-9 folks from the state of New Hampshire and the state of Maine. So thank you guys for coming. I truly appreciate it. Chief Williams, I'm going to go chronologically backwards for my chiefs. Thank you. Chief has taught me a lot from 20 to 15 to now. Some people would say that this is 20 years in the making, and I'm here to tell you it's not. This is 4 years in the making for me. I learned a lot in the last 4 years, and I greatly appreciate that.
he honed me. I was a good street cop. Chief made me a good administrator and a good supervisor and a good leader. So thank you for that. I'm going to go back one step further. Chief Conway, I don't know why you hired me in 1999. Thank you. Chief made me the street cop that I was. Chief Conway taught me to be the old school cop that I continue to be. That won't ever go away. So I get a layer of that and a layer of the new. Hopefully that's going to make me a better leader than I could have been with any one of those influences. My promise to the chiefs here is that I'll try to honor those lessons that you taught me. My promise to the street cops here is I'll try to be a boss that you'd want to work for. Chief Williams always said, integrity and compassion. We've lived that, I believe, and we will continue to live that. Those are Chief's words. Our words going forward, professionalism, integrity, and respect. That's what you can expect, and that's what we will deliver from Barrington Police Department from here forward. From today until next Friday and into the future, the residents of this town should experience no change in service. We're going to continue driving forward and just take what you've expected and continue to expect that from us. We have a young group here. I'm proud of every one of these people. Except Scott. We have a mostly young group here that I'm proud to have been involved in hiring in some way, shape, or form, most of them. I promise you guys do the best that I can for you. I'm proud to lead you. I'm proud you stuck around. I'm happy that you supported me through this process. So that's your group of police officers. We'll do our best to support the town. Thank you, folks.
Everyone is invited to stay and mingle and enjoy it as much as they would like. The select board is going to take a 5-minute recess, move into our other room, and have our normal meeting. And I'm also going to apologize for running through Bobby, so I am truly sorry about that. Next part of the meeting, which is the public hearing for a community block grant application. And housing and community development plan, as well as a residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. And I will invite Donna Lane up to talk about this.
Good evening. So are we officially open for the first public hearing?
We are.
Okay, so I'm going to read to y'all, and I apologize, but we have to. It's quick. Community Development Block Grant funds are available to municipalities through the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority, CDFA. Up to $500,000 annually is available for economic development projects, up to $500,000 for public facility projects, up to $500,000 for housing projects, and up to $350,000 for emergency activities. Up to $25,000 is available per planning study grant. All projects must directly benefit a majority of low and moderate income persons. This is a proposed application to the Community Development Finance Authority for up to $500,000 in Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities Grant. The funds will, in part, finance water improvements, including upgrading the existing water source, as well as adding a new water main at Lee Oak Cooperative, a 69-unit manufactured housing park located on Newtown Plains Road in Barrington. And this is added from the notice that we put in the paper. We have an addition. So in addition, some septic systems will be replaced as part of the project. This has been added to the project scope since the posting of the public hearings. The majority of the residents in the park are of low and moderate income. This project conforms with Barrington's Housing and Community Development Plan proposed goal of encourage municipal and private water and wastewater systems that are safe, sanitary, and meet DES regulations, which is a short-term and a long-term goal. The board have any questions on the proposed project?
Nope. Anybody? Mr. Bailey?
Who'll make the decision on the septic systems?
The engineer, yeah, the engineers, a couple of them are in pretty bad shape. They know they need to be replaced, but they have an engineer on board who will determine.
Thank you.
Mr. Ayer?
Isn't it like a community septic? So that
They have private septics, but they're shared by houses, like 2 houses have one
Right.
septic, yeah. So when we talk about, we're probably gonna replace 3 of them, those are 6 houses.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none there, at that point, I will ask if there's any public comment. Seeing no public comment, at this point, I will close this part of the public hearing. And then I will open the public hearing on the Housing and Community Development Plan.
In order to ask for CDBG funds, you have to have a housing and community development plan, and it has to be readopted every 3 years, so your last one was pretty old. So this is basically the goals that are proposed for your plan, and these are the ones, we get these basically from CDFA, from their example, and they're just nice goals to have. Encourage a varied stock of safe, sanitary, decent, and affordable housing for persons of all age and income groups. Encourage economic development activities to increase quality industrial and commercial development. Encourage the protection, enhancement, and renovation of significant historic and architectural resources in the community. Preserve and promote the town's historically and culturally significant structures. Here's the goal we're aiming at today. Encourage municipal and private water and wastewater systems that are safe, sanitary, and meet DES regulations. And promote activities that protect the health and safety of residents and visitors. The goals are consistent with Barrington's master plan and ordinances. And bless you. And a policy statement. Any federal CDBG grant funds awarded to address any of these goals shall be expended consistent with national objectives and shall, at a minimum, provide improved housing in accordance with Section 8 standards, be used for public facility projects. That's what we're talking about today. Employment opportunities or feasibility studies. All CDBG-funded projects shall primarily benefit low and moderate-income persons or households and shall not benefit moderate-income persons to the exclusion of low-income persons. So it's basically, the plan is just some nice goals for your community. And they also have a citizen participation portion to this proposed plan that CDFA has put out, which basically says we have to post public hearings like we do anyway.
Select Person Hardikoff?
Is there a manner in which we're gathering the data analytics to identify that we have low income, moderately low income, or extremely low income households?
For this particular project, an income survey was done of the households in the park.
Excellent. Thank you.
Select Person Daley?
Thank you. On item 3, it says, under word proposal for the hearings to be proposed, there was a section there for persons with physical disabilities and, if appropriate, obtain citizen views from this adoption. Does that mean that you're going to survey all the houses and help provide them houses that where they need it, but people haven't originally put them on their houses? I hope I made it clear. In other words, the units that are there now, if we have to do any work on the units.
No, we're not doing any work to the units, we're only doing the water system. We're not going in any units.
This is specific to holding public hearing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just public facility water line, septic.
Any other questions or comments from the Select Board? Hearing none, I will open the public comment. Seeing no public comment, I will close the hearing on the Housing and Community Development Plan. I will also open a public hearing for Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan.
So this is a little bit funny because we're not going to displace or relocate anybody, we're talking about water lines. But in order to ask for CDBG funds, every time you ask for CDBG funds, even if you're just doing a study, you have to adopt this plan. It's basically HUD produced, and we just fill in the blanks with the town's name. Basically, this plan states in general that if the town were to undertake a CDBG project which involved displacement and resulting relocation, they would follow the Uniform Relocation Act requirements. The Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan outlines the measures they would take to find comparable housing for persons or businesses displaced and or relocated. Again, we're not doing that with this project. It's not applicable to us, but we have to adopt it.
Any questions or comments from the Select Board? Seeing none, are there any public comments? no public comments, so I will close this portion of the hearing on residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. Any questions overall from the select board or comments? Select person Bailey?
Do we need to have a motion for who can sign on this, yourself or the, or Connor? Do we need a motion for that?
It's in there.
Yes, we'll do that, but let's, go ahead, select person there.
I thought I saw Connor's name already on it.
Not yet, but let's,
Oh, no, a line.
so, at this point, do I have a motion to accept the completion of the 3 public hearings and the board's voting on it? Select person.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Air aye.
Haley, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
Now do 3 separate votes, this one,
Yep.
this one, and that. Yep.
So looking for a vote from the select person to adopt the housing and community development plan. Motion by select person Air,
Second.
seconded by select person Bailey. Nap aye.
Oh, Hardikoff, aye.
Bailey.
Air aye.
Looking for a motion for the residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. Select person there,
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay.
seconded by select person Hardikoff. Nap aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Haley, aye.
Air aye.
And then looking for a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign and submit the CDBG application, and upon approval of the CDBG application, authorizing the town administrator to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate the CDBG contract and any amendments thereto.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded by
George, second.
select person Bailey.
Thank you.
Air aye.
Haley, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No. Nope. Appointments. Everyone should have paperwork for the appointment of Kyle Garland to the Technology Committee. Select person there.
I'll make the motion out of that committee.
Second it.
All right, roll call vote.
Air aye.
Haley, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye. No, he's not here.
Thank you for volunteering.
He was excited to be part of it. Kyle is actually fairly new to town
That's excellent.
and wanted to get involved and be involved in the town.
If you want to go to new business A, you can so then it's the budget stuff. Thank you.
Is the board all right with hopping to new business, the TurboCam question, so that the guest may not have to sit through all of the budget?
I'll make that motion, or
Second. I'll approve that. It's fine with me.
I'm going to recuse myself since I work for TurboCam.
So as vice chair, is this our first, second, or third hearing?
So this,
Title?
this actually isn't a public hearing, this is something separate, connected but separate. We'll take the votes later to
Okay.
end the RSA 4114A process. So TurboCam, in the development of lots 1.2 and 1.4 on Redemption Road and the accompanying map 233 lot 77, there will be a lot of excess material during the development project. Opposed to hauling that off the site, they have proposed to improve 2 lots owned by the town, lot 1.5 and lot 1.6, adding that material, leveling the lots, further preparing them for future development during the excavation of those 3 lots they would be building a building on. So lot 1.5, while the town still owns it, the town is under a development agreement with TurboCam, requiring the construction of a facility no later than December 31st, 2022. And then lot 1.6, the town has no plans to transfer commercially right now. It's been retained for recreation use, but the work to be done would, again, further improve those lots. And I'll invite Elliot Wilkins here, represented from TurboCam, to fill in the blanks, and I know he has a rendering for you that hopes to demonstrate the type of work that we're talking about.
Hopefully this will help. So I'm Elliot Wilkins from TurboCam. We have some drawings trying to show cut lines. There's basically going to be about 10,000 cubic yards of material left over from the work done on what we call Building 5. And what we're proposing to do, if you look at the cuts there, you can see that there's a fair amount of fill that needs to happen to bring the building up to, bring the land up to where the building can be flat. It starts at 202 and we propose to build it up to 220. And also the road itself is going to have to be built up some too, so that there's access to the back flat portion of the lot of 1.6. Are those drawings helping at all? Sort of. If you look at this drawing, you can see all this black and then these step downs through here. That's all fill that needs to happen on this corner of where the building is going to be set. We already have an AOT for this. We're not changing any of that. We're just proposing to use the fill that we have instead of having to take it off-site, which would cost a lot more money.
Have we tested any, have you done an environmental scan at all and tested the material?
Sorry?
Have you done an environmental scan or tested any of the material?
Not yet. We haven't blasted it out of the previous land.
So this is fill, which is already on site. So this is natural earth, which will need to be excavated in order to develop the 3 lots they're building on now.
I understand. Has the
Okay.
material ever been tested? If we're going to be moving it to town-owned land, have we ever tested the material?
Not to my knowledge. It's being moved to the lot adjacent, the adjacent lot.
Go ahead, Select.
I understand this law, I looked at it and stuff, for town purposes and stuff, and I understand that it's mostly ledge, so you're not gonna really run into any contamination stuff and stuff. So, I understand your theory, and then you're gonna retain all materials, it's gonna cost you. And I had an estimate done, you're gonna invest a lot of money to produce that, to level it. And then, so it's clear, they're keeping it, they're buying a lot and they're keeping the materials, right? All the materials.
We're keeping the materials on site,
Right.
but the materials will be used to fill, and that's what this
Right.
is for. So it's coming out of one site, moving over to another site that we're going to build on.
I have no problem with that, I just want to make it clear and transparent and stuff. When you're purchasing that lot, you retain the materials, you're gonna put a big expense on process and moving it. All right, estimate done for you?
You know what it is.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what people understand.
Moving it on site helps to save some of that, as well as having the site work for both sites done at the same time. So I have the site guy there doing the work, and it helps to defer what could be even more cost.
Right, I understand that, I just want to make it transparent.
Select Person Bailey.
Yeah, one of the questions I have piggybacks on what Selectman Hardikoff had. You have that one roadway that goes in up there right off to the left as you go up there, that way there. And if there was any possibility that the vehicles were going up and down as before, it might have left something there. That's the only place I could see where I would also ask to have that tested and looked at. If you could accommodate us on that, would be appreciative.
Yeah, that will have to be tested because that's a portion that they will be making as a place for water and stuff like that. So that's going to have to be checked.
All right, thank you.
And so the select board could certainly make an action contingent on satisfactory results.
Sure. So, as a single, am I turned up? As a single select person, I certainly would encourage making a motion for this, but that included in the motion, there is some type of soil testing or environmental scan of the material before it's moved to 1.6. Select person air?
That's all gonna be identified in the alteration terrain and stuff. And I've walked that land and stuff. It's all virgin, most of it. Only a little small area where the Legion put a driveway in and stuff. I personally have no concerns over it.
Understood. Select person Bailey?
I'll make the motion to give us the test results of that road after they take them, as he had pre-noted that it's going to be tested anyway, so.
Great.
So moved.
Okay, so the board's being asked to consider authorizing TurboCam to utilize portions of 1.5 and 1.6 for placement of excess material. And the motion would be that the board would allow that pending testing of the material before movement of the excess material. Anybody want to second that? I've just made a motion.
Oh, you made the motion, I thought well, I'll second it then.
Here, I.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye. For clarification, did we have a motion by select person Bailey prior to?
It was specific to road materials.
Very good. Could we repeat that? Because I don't think we acted on it.
That he would like the road materials to be tested prior to movement.
Okay.
And he already, and what he did, Chairman, is that he said that they're going to be tested anyway prior to being moved because of the requirements, so
So,
that's why, I withdraw that first motion.
thank you. All set?
All set. I will keep the board informed as I receive test results, which will be performed in conjunction with the working list.
Vice Chair.
Yes. Select person Air.
Do we need a motion to authorize the Vice Chair to sign?
Nothing needs to be signed. The select board is acting as the owner of the property, owner being town of Barrington, and authorizing those activities. A vote's all that's necessary.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Ellen.
All right.
Between your papers.
Moving back up just under appointments to budget and warrant article finalization. Board.
So what you have in your packet is an updated proposed warrant articles. There's 2 warrant articles which require change, numbered number 3 and number 6, or excuse me, number 7. And I can address those now or when we get to them. So what you'll notice is any warrant article highlighted in green is a warrant article the board has already acted to place on the warrant. Any article highlighted in yellow, the board has not yet acted and would need to. Likewise, any recommendation highlighted in green is a recommendation already voted on by the Advisory Budget Committee, and anything highlighted in red has not yet been done. So the select board tonight is asked to, at the very least, make a recommendation, make a vote to place these articles on the warrant, including the operating budget. And the recommendation does not have to happen tonight. That recommendation can be made at the January 6th meeting or at the January 20th meeting if that meeting is necessary. And so for the operating budget and these articles, certainly continue placing articles on the warrant and make any final budget adjustments or decisions necessary. And so like I said, I have changes to introduce for article number 3 and article number 7. which we can do at whatever time the board considers that.
Does the board have a preference? And
I have a preference that we work our way backwards from 7 to 3.
okay. Anybody object to that? Hearing no objection, we'll start with Article 7.
So I was contacted by the chair of the Barrington Library Foundation, who had submitted a request of the select board to use $200,000 from unassigned fund balance to contribute to the first payment of the library bond. I was asked today to pull that request to avoid any illusion of double dipping or additional requests of the voters. So that article has been rescinded by the group which requested it, and unless the select board would like to take a separate action, will not be on the warrant.
Anything from the board?
No, I just, like I late noticed the meeting stuff, I was busy today and didn't check my emails.
All right, seeing nothing there, moving to Article 5, which is the next one that wasn't approved, which is the operating budget.
Our current year's operating budget is what, and the difference between the two is what?
7.124, the increase is 2.48%.
Select Person Air.
I still like to go over the final number on the budget.
Okay. Something specific that you'd like to talk about, or?
Not at this time. We have to, on 6th, we can present everything last time.
So certainly, the budget hearing on the 6th, bond and budget hearing, needs to be properly posted, which includes the details of the budget lines ahead of time. So changes are able to be made at the budget hearing. And if changes are made at the budget hearing on the 6th, that would require a second budget hearing on the 20th. So I think the schedule we've been working on, unless there's, certainly unless the board acts otherwise, the schedule we've been working on is to finalize the budget tonight. The select board finalized the budget, presented at the budget hearing. Certainly consider any changes that may have come up over the 3 weeks that may be necessary. But if no changes are necessary, then there's no need to hold the second public hearing.
I apologize, I wasn't prepared. Life has been loading up on me lately and I haven't had the time. I would like to go through all my notes and have the chance.
So essentially what you're saying is you want to post it as is, but then you may have other suggested or thoughtful changes that you would like to recommend
Yes,
at the
sir.
budget hearing.
So, motion to approve the operating budget as written with the understanding that on 1/6, select person Air reserves the right to discuss and propose changes.
I'll second the motion.
Air aye.
Yeah, Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
And I guess I would say for the efficiency of that meeting, because it will be a public hearing on the 6th, certainly if Select Person Air would submit, any recommended changes ahead of time, I can get those distributed to the board. We don't have a meeting between now and the 6th, so if there's some time the select board would like those delivered, we can have those for consideration for efficiency's sake at the public hearing.
Select Person Bailey first, then Select Person Air.
Thank you very much. Is there going to be any numbers coming up for the default budget?
So once the budget's finalized, the default budget can be developed, which will be presented at the public hearing as well.
Could that be done with the information that Select Person Air presents and be ready, so at least we can observe some of it on the 6th?
So
If that's possible.
So what I would do is use the budget as written right now in its current status as recommended by the Advisory Budget Committee to develop the operating budget and the default budget for 2020 with the understanding that there may be changes at the January 6th meeting when Select Person Ayers had an opportunity to offer his opinion.
Thank you, that's what I was getting. Thank you very much.
Select Person Air.
Yeah, and I respect the board and the department heads. So by the first of the year, it'll be 5 days before the meeting, before everything, I'll have everything there for you.
Great. All right. Stormwater asset management. This is to raise and appropriate a sum of $30,000 to defray the cost of planning for public facilities for development and implementation of an asset management plan for the town's stormwater collection and conveyance system, and to authorize the issuance of not more than a $30,000 bond or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, and further to authorize the Select Board to apply for Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan. Repayment of the loan funds will include up to 100% forgiveness of the loan principal in the amount of up to $30,000. Select person there.
I understand this and I approve it.
I'd second bringing forward Article 4 as a warrant article.
Roll call vote.
Here, aye.
Haley, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye. Excuse me. The library, Article 3, the library and community center bond. TA McIver, you said you had something you would like to...
Correct. So my understanding is that the library trustees met on Saturday morning to discuss both conversations from the select board and from the advisory budget committee for ways to reduce the project cost to residents of Barrington. So what I just passed out is updated as of today, an updated detailed budget from the architect. And the two changes that were made for this document are a removal of the $300,000 owner's contingency. So there's a contingency built into the building construction line, that's the builder's contingency, but the $300,000 owner's contingency was removed. Additionally, there is $136,000, looks like $136,000 taken out of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, bringing that line to $41,000. So with the numbers in the budget as presented, the total project cost is $4.239 million, still using the $241,000, which is the available cash on hand, with the anticipated bond request of $3.998 million. And so in conversations with the library trustee president, moving forward, the plan for any donations collected in excess of the $241,000 would go to make up the difference of the portions of the project which were taken out. So I've worked hard to consider many options and what the law allows in structuring a project request. And so the most important part is what the voters appropriate. So regardless of the revenue source, voters are responsible for appropriation, and whatever amount is appropriated is the only amount which can be spent on a project without a future appropriation. So with the proposal, the total appropriation would be $4.239 million. And so anything that is collected in excess of $241,000 could be used to reduce the total project cost. But if it were to be used, as my understanding is the plan, if it's to be used to add to the total project cost, it would require a separate action from the voters. So speaking in round numbers, if between now and this time next year, an additional $200,000 is collected in excess of the $241,000, there would be a separate warrant article asking voters to raise and appropriate $200,000 for the library construction, with all of that money to come from donations. So it wouldn't it wouldn't have a tax impact, it wouldn't have any additional money in that way, but it would raise the total project cost to whatever money is asked for an additional appropriation. So that's my understanding of what is different, how the proposal has changed. I know the library trustee president is here, and so if you had additional questions, you could ask. And so in advance of tonight, I've had conversations with the town's attorney, with the town's auditor, and most importantly with the Department of Revenue Administration, who is responsible for allowing or disallowing warrant articles based on their language and how they're structured. And so certainly if there's any other questions of what else might be possible, I'd be happy to offer a perspective, but that's the proposal as it stands. And I will add, that the Advisory Budget Committee has not had an opportunity to review the proposal as presented at the December 11th meeting with no changes from when the board had last seen it. The Advisory Budget Committee voted again not to recommend the article by a vote of 3-2.
Select Person Bailey, you had your hand up.
My question was answered, sir. Thank you.
Select Person Air.
So, do we take these numbers off this paper, and we change it?
Correct.
So you'd be looking for a sum of 4.239877.
Correct.
4 million.
Is the total raise and appropriate.
And then the bond will be 3.9?
Correct.
With all the other numbers added to it?
Correct. The 241 is the other number added, which is cash on hand available to reduce the bond request. And so there's subtle nuances. So a bond through the municipal bond bank cannot be prepaid. And so donations collected from town meeting vote up until the bond is issued, typically in July, any donations collected through that time would be able to be used to reduce the bond request. After the bond is issued, because it can't be prepaid, any donations accepted for the project could be used towards the bond repayment, and wouldn't require a separate appropriation because they're properly appropriated in the operating budget. And so the donations after a bond is issued, the options are to go towards the bond repayment or hold on to them until a future town meeting to ask for an additional appropriation.
I just had a question. Is there any penalty for prepaying the bond?
It's not allowed. So they structure their bonds disallowing prepayment. There are some instances where prepayments, they'll essentially go through a refinancing where anybody who has money tied up in there, they allow prepayments, but it's
so you can't buy
infrequently.
Buy down your years for your.
They want their interest money.
They're
correct. And there's competitive rates because of that, but still, right.
Select Person Bailey.
I just want to thank everyone involved who met and had the decisions to lower the bond amount for the building and everything else. I want to say thank you to all of them that are involved.
Select Person Hardikoff.
So I think it's extremely important that we allow the residents of the town to vote on this, and I think at a time where Federal Reserve rates are at the very low rates that they're currently at for the infrastructure of the town, I'm hoping that what we decide is to enter into a project like this at a time where borrowing money is certainly at a lower rate than in future years. So.
The only other question I had is the square footage, what's the square footage of the building?
13,000.
Right, but
13,120.
But 13,000 off of 3.998 million comes up at $307 a square foot, and they're presenting $293 a square foot.
So if you look about in the middle of the page where it would fold, there's a construction budget, or there's a construction price, and that's subtotaled out at 3.88 million. And so the 293 is used by devising 13,120 by the 3.883877.
Yep, so they're excluding the fixtures, furniture,
And the soft
equipment.
costs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Select Person Air first, then Select Person Bailey.
Why wasn't landscaping and the price of landscaping involved on this? Because we're gonna have to stabilize the site no matter what.
It is involved.
It's landscaping,
Yes, that's included.
it's zero here.
Sorry, I was looking at utility costs.
I don't know the answer to that question.
I asked.
If you don't mind, yeah, please.
Thank you. Lindsay Musiar's Chair of the Trustees at the Library. So looking at the budget where you're seeing zero under landscaping, it's my understanding that that's actually like landscaping, trees, shrubs, etc. It's not digging or part of the,
Stabilization.
exactly. And we put it at zero is because the hope is to get it all donated, an in-kind donation, someone come and do that as an in-kind, if that makes sense.
Do you know that, or?
Do I know that landscaping line has not to do with digging for our project. I know that landscaping line is, someone is going to be asking local landscaping companies to come and donate shrubs, plant a nice garden. That's what that line is indicating. The way that they do this is they put everything in, landscaping, we put in all the little things that, the furniture and fixtures, the moving costs, all those costs are put in here to represent it all. And even though it's a zero, it's important to have it on there.
Select Person Bailey?
Yes, I know that the alarm system and everything else with fire and emergency will be there, but I've noticed under equipment that you've removed $20,000 for sound system projectors and appliances. Is that in any way going to affect the safety systems of the building or at all?
Sure, good question. That equipment is not the fire suppression system. It doesn't have anything to do with the fire. All of that is in here, and that's quoted, I believe, at $275,000. This equipment is merely furniture and fixtures. I believe it says sound system, projectors, and appliances. The kitchen.
Yeah, I saw that, and that's the reason why I asked. I just wanted to make sure that some of that didn't cross.
Yeah, no, fire is
Thank you.
separate. Yep.
Other questions or comments from the Select Board? Select Person Hardikoff?
I'll just again emphasize that I think it's important for the residents of the town to make this decision, and by bringing it forward as a warrant article, we're allowing them the opportunity to continue to explore this and to continue to decide whether to invest in the infrastructure.
Select Person Bailey?
The only last thing I would say, and I address this to you, is that we make sure, you make sure that the staff has the answers to some of these questions, and if not, they bring it to the librarian and have her be able to answer, because I know there'll be questions being asked as to the funding on this and what we're going to get. So I think if the staff has that information, they'll be able to convey it to whoever comes there. They don't have to wait for it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And once we get to that place, and if it passes and we go forward that way, they will absolutely all know that.
Once this hits out on the 6th, it's going to be a landslide for all of them.
Sure, and the staff is in a tricky situation because they can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Coming out and saying vote for the library. Thank you. They can't promote the library's project. That's the trustees. So they'll be adequate.
So they'll still have to be able to answer the questions.
They'll do their best, or they'll send them to us for sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Select Person Hardikoff?
I just, I'm going to strongly encourage, how do I put this? I'm going to strongly encourage that your usage of social media with this does not discount any of the opponent's perspectives to this, but instead that you take those as opportunities and that you get together as a group before there's any responses on social media, listen to the opponents of the project, answer their questions in a manner that's extremely respectful, and please have your talking points as a group aligned so that you're all responding in a respectful manner to the people who have questions about the project, because the opportunity is always there for the residents of this town to understand just how important this project is.
Any other questions or comments from the select board? The advisory budget committee, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to weigh in on this, since it is different than what was presented to you.
I guess my only concern, I think loud enough. My only concern is that you're reducing the bond amount by increasing the risk of the town. You've gotten rid of the contingency for any issues that arise, and you've also removed all of the, or most of the funding for the FF&E for hopefully through donations. If something were to happen or those don't come in, then what are you going to do for the short of funds?
Sure. We've obviously discussed that. We have had a very good return rate on everyone that's pledged. I believe we've gotten all but one donation. So we're very hopeful that we'll continue to do that. Some folks said that they would donate to the project once it passed. So there'll probably be monies coming in that we don't even expect. But if that were the case, then of course we would work with our architect and we would work with our construction management firm who has vast experience doing these projects to find other ways within our project. As it's been explained to me, these numbers are fudgeable, I always get that wrong, to be moved around. So if, for instance, some of that money doesn't come in and we need to use old furniture for a while, then that's what we do. Or if we need to change the design of a space to, decrease costs, then we're willing to do that, absolutely.
All right, just from the ABC meeting last week and everything I've seen, the proposed construction cost of the building has not changed. There's been no concessions in what you're saying you would do. I would rather see a $300,000 contingency and reduce the scope, having that safety net behind it. Because right now you have no safety net. If nothing goes wrong, either you're going to make those concessions, which everyone has said they don't want to do, or you're going to have to go back to the town and ask for the difference.
Sure. There is some monies in the construction management firm and their contingency on their side of the budget. We took the owner's contingency out. In order to redo the scope of the project, that would have cost us a lot more money as well. We're already, as you all know, lots of money into this. Asking the architects to come back to the table and redesign over and over again, that's costing us money all along. So we aren't really in a place where we were willing to do that. And I respect your position. I also respect that Select Person Hardikoff came up with that idea last week with the contingency. There's no way to please every single person. I respect your opinion. We're doing the best that we can with what we have.
Oh, I fully understand that. I think the town is in a significantly more risky position by eliminating 100% of the contingency.
Of the owner's contingency.
Correct.
Yep, and we understand that if we dig and something happens, then we're going to have to cut other places. That doesn't mean that we're going to cut anything that was donated specifically in someone's name. We've made very clear promises about those things. But there are other ways that our construction management firm and our architect firm are going to have to work with us on that, and they understand this. They sat down and helped us with this budget all week. They understand that they're going to have to make some moves to help us as well. I mean, we'd rather go in knowing our numbers are what they are than try to scale it back and get it wrong, if that makes sense.
Dan, do you want to say something?
I think you've done a pretty amazing job to cut out 300,000, more or less, from this budget. This is such an important project for the future of this town. I think that you've done a pretty good job with this. I think there are risks that Mr. Morris pointed out, but I think those are probably worthwhile risks to take in hopes of getting this approved.
Thank you.
Any other? Peter?
I sat through quite a bit of that meeting Saturday, and again, I had the same thought that Lindsay just shared, that trying to redesign the building now is going to probably incur more costs and perhaps cause more problems than leaving it as is. The sense of the library trustees and others who were at that meeting was very strongly in favor of keeping the building design the way it was, and I certainly have respect for that. right along, my big issue has been the different nature of having the foundation being the provider of the donation funds. And it's just such an unusual case. It's not like the SAU coming for a bond or the town coming for a bond. It's just very, very different. So unfortunately, I just think and rethink everything. And so the question I have now is, should we make sure that the $241,000 that's currently in the bank gets a public hearing and transferred to the trustees prior to deliberative session?
So that's certainly a question for the select board. So far, what the select board has asked for is going into deliberative session, and I forget the date, but a few days before the deliberative session, has asked for an evidenced accounting of the cash on hand that's non-committed within the foundation. So the select board is able to, speak to voters when updating that $241,000 number, saying, yes, we've seen that this money is available. It sounds like what you're suggesting is taking that one step further and saying the town should have, in order to have, put that on the warrant as an offsetting revenue, the town should have that money on hand.
That's, the latter part of your comment is exactly what I meant, is because in reality, the library trustees don't have possession of those funds, and the board doesn't have possession of those funds. So we're just in a kind of an unusual circumstance, and I just want to make sure that everything goes smoothly, and by whatever rules we have to adhere. Again, it's just a strange situation. With no negative comment to the foundation, but it's just a real unusual case.
Great.
February 1st.
I believe that T.A. MacGyver explained to me that January 29th, he wanted us, that was the note we had written, that we would make sure to get to you that evidence statement. That way you have enough time to make all your copies.
Perfect. And so certainly it could happen a few different ways. So if, when the bond passes in March, the process of the town accepting that $241,000 would be nearly identical to the process of doing it beforehand. And so I think and I won't speculate too far, but I think the resistance maybe to depositing that money to the town prior to the vote would be if the vote were not successful. I'm not sure, and that would be a decision of the foundation. I wouldn't make that decision for them, but just anticipating what resistance might be.
I think that makes sense.
Select Person Hardikoff?
The one other thing that I will strongly encourage the foundation to do, there are a large number of grants that can make up the difference in the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. One of them that comes to mind, I think, was Dollar Tree. And, simply by Googling grants that focus on childhood literacy, literacy within rural communities, things like that, will allow you the opportunity to identify those and beyond this project, hopefully make up the difference in your furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Okay,
That's great
and I
advice.
would hope that for you because
For sure.
I think it's a great project and I would like to see it done to completion.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the select board?
No.
Does the select board object to having Mr. Gingrich come up and speak for a moment?
Is there a need for it if we were to motion to accept the warrant article?
I just wanted to respond to her. Do we want the grant?
Yes. What did you vote on the bond?
And I will add that the Advisory Budget Committee is in the process of scheduling a meeting for the week of December 30th, which spans into early January. And there's a number, as you'll see, there's a number of warrant articles as presented, which the Advisory Budget Committee has not yet rendered a recommendation for. And so the plan is to have the Advisory Budget Committee meet prior to the January 6th public hearing so that all warrant articles can be presented with the appropriate recommendation from the Advisory Budget Committee. My understanding is that meeting has yet to be scheduled, but the plan is to have it that week of December 30th sometime.
I would like to make a motion to approve Article 3 and bring it forward to the voters.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote?
I might be negative, but I cannot take a stand on the way these numbers are, because you can't collect square footage and stuff, so I have to vote no.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
So at this point, moving through all of the warrant articles, the select board, again, has the opportunity now, and you don't have to do it for all of them, has the opportunity now to render a recommendation for the warrant articles. Again, any progress we make now will make the meeting on January 6th more efficient. That recommendation can be changed all the way up through January 20th. Prior to the deliberative session on February 1st. So it's completely up to the board if they want to work on that now or save all of that work for January 6th.
I personally would like to see the review of the advisory budget committee and have them weigh in on all of the articles.
Okay.
And the advisory budget committee has another meeting scheduled for
the week of December 30th, hopefully.
The tentative proposal was for January 2nd, but we'll see how that flies.
Okay.
Okay.
How does the rest of the board feel about that?
And one. You want to vote tonight, or do you want to wait for ABC's recommendations?
I would like to wait, because we also have to wait for Mr. Ayers to come in there also for part of the budget, so we just might as well take it all at once.
Okay.
One meeting, January 6th, be ready.
Yep.
Same time?
That's the proposal, but I haven't heard back at this point. If anybody's responded, I haven't seen it yet.
It's okay, but
Okay, great.
All righty. First of two public comments. Going once? Twice? All right. Review minutes for December 9th.
move to accept.
Second.
Here, aye.
Bailey, aye.
Was I at this meeting?
Yes.
That was the one I was at.
You came, well, the 9th, you...
Yeah, everybody except Mrs. Hatchford.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was last week.
You're going to have to hold back.
I can tell you I've already read them, the minutes are good.
They're accurate.
Yes.
Great opportunity to encourage anybody listening at home or attending in public. All of the minutes are enhanced with links to the video for each section which is discussed. There's also links to other supporting materials, and special thanks to our municipal office administrator for taking such care to include all of that information.
Thank you, Tiffany.
I vote to.
Nap aye. Staff reports.
Everything I have to offer is an agenda item.
Office administrator call.
For your signature tonight, I have administrative property tax abatement, in the amount of $450. Payroll manifest for check date 12/12/2019, and AP summary check registered for check date 12/12/19. That is it.
Alrighty. Under old business, we're looking for a vote for the acquisition of map 223, lot 29. This has been one of our public hearings that we have been having. So I'll be looking...
Move to approve.
Thank you. I will second it.
And authorize the town administrator to negotiate the sale. And so again, both are offered to the town free and clear, but the terms of the purchase and sale will have to be negotiated. And certainly if there's anything of interest, I'll come back to the select board. But the offer for both pieces of property, we're offering the town for free and clear, but to sign those documents.
Select Person Air.
Showing us for the whole.
And I think that's why giving me the authorization to negotiate, because it's possible that that's a requirement.
I believe that was the requirement.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a $1
So,
requirement.
are we doing roll call vote on this?
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye. Also, looking for a motion for the acquisition of map 223, lot 26.
So
with the
moved.
same covenants or,
Authorization of the town administrator
Yes.
to negotiate the sale.
I move that motion.
second,
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
nap aye. Electronic timesheet attendance, looking for any further discussion before moving to the suggestion to move forward with electronic timesheets. I know, I see Dave had provided some information on it, primarily around the fact that it looks like it was, his only concern was around that they're trying to move everything more to a cloud-based platform, and it would require us to manage it with an in-house server, and I'm missing something else in there, but
Right,
there's a
and
lot
he
that's happened
offered-
since I read that.
Yeah, he offered to review all the security documents, which we will gladly take him up on. And also from our last meeting, this is a subject which the select board asked the advisory budget committee to weigh in on, which they voted to recommend.
Correct.
So I would make a motion that we move forward with the electronic time and attendance with one caveat, which is that we have an exit plan in order to maintain all of the data that will be living in the cloud. Because it's software as a service, that you have an exit plan in place to gather back all of that data should at any time you sever the contract with this agency.
Great. I would like to make sure that's referenced in the contract with them.
Great.
Select Person Air.
I need to clarify something. So my understanding is, employees and department heads have to punch into the computer, log in and log out. There's no electronic,
They may have a fob, or they may have a swipe, or they may enter into a computer where they simply put their employee number in and hit enter.
well,
One of the three will occur.
May, what's gonna happen? For me to make a vote tonight, I need to know, is it off of the computer?
No, it will be dependent upon where the employees are working, and each department will be utilizing one of the three options: swiping, fob, or entry of their employee number into a computer system.
All right, that's not my question then.
So I've made a motion to accept the electronic time and attendance, and we have added to that motion that the contract for electronic time and attendance have an exit plan so that all data that is stored in the cloud through the software as a service can be extracted and retained back to the town.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
And if I may, I have one item for old business, which has come up this week, and it's regarding the sale of the 3 lots to TurboCam, separate from the material. And so if the select board is willing to entertain the new agenda item, I would ask that the chair recuse himself first of all.
I will recuse myself if everyone is looking. Are you willing?
I have no
to-
objection.
All right, then I'll recuse myself.
So as you know, the last step of the process is simply to close on the sale. The select board negotiated a purchase price for the 3 lots of $88,050, negotiated the terms of a development agreement, which requires the development of the lots. All that's public information from previous meetings. So the closing is scheduled hopefully for tomorrow or later this week. The buyer's attorney would like a specific authorization from the select board to authorize the town administrator to close sign closing documents, and the deed will be signed by the select board. We have that prepared for your review tonight. It's the same deed you saw when the sale was finalized. And so as long as it's acceptable to the select board, it would be a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign closing documents related to the sale of map 233, lot 77, and map 234, lot 1.4, 1.2 and 1.4.
And I would add to that, under pre-approved terms and amounts as illustrated at previous meetings.
Great.
Second.
Was that a motion by Select Person Hardikoff?
Yes, it was.
So,
Second.
can I clarify for a vote? So it's going, you're signing off, not the vice chair?
So it's not, so the select board as a whole is signing the deed. There are certain aspects of the closing documents, state required forms, which will be finalized likely in the minutes before the meeting, in the minutes before the closing, which will itemize the recording costs of the buyer and things like that. So it would be documents like that that would need to be signed. And I plan to attend the closing and had planned to sign them with the select board's decision previously, but the attorney for the buyer would like to see specific authorization from the select board.
I have no problem, but I'll make it transparent and clear and stuff. And I brought up earlier, I understand the cost of developing that lot. So I want everything's clear and stuff. That's what I brought up earlier. When they're buying that lot, they're buying the headaches too. But that's on them.
So we have a motion before us to allow our town administrator to execute the closing authorization with the predetermined terms and amounts.
All right.
And we've had a second. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Great, thank you. All done, thank you.
We should do this more often for you.
2 more years.
Everyone should have this much fun.
New business, we've already handled the TurboCam, the other TurboCam new business item. The purchase of used propane generators, which I will turn over to Connor to discuss.
So this is, the town has been made aware of the existence of 2 used Caterpillar 65 kilowatt propane generators that would sell for approximately $15,000 with up to $5,000 to install. And so the proposal to the select board is simply to encumber that money to make it available. So if during further review, this is deemed to be in the best interest of the town, the money is available to do so. And so there's multiple funding sources available. Essentially, these generators would be used for 2 of 3 purposes. First, to replace the diesel generator at the public safety building, which has always been a planned item. It hasn't yet been properly budgeted, waiting for it to essentially rise high enough in the priority list. This year was the air handlers at the public safety building. And so replacing that, the furnaces at that facility were recently switched over to propane. Switching over the generator was the next step. This is an opportunity that came available, albeit last minute, for the purchase of used units. The business that's selling them is just simply upgrading to more capacity. And so they're about 10 years old, and we haven't done all of our due diligence to determine if this is actually in the best interest of the town. But we're looking for input and support from the board to continue moving in this direction, knowing that it wasn't properly budgeted for, but it is something that could possibly benefit the town. The other 2 uses, one would be at the transfer station. It's always been on the list in the capital improvements program for that facility to have a generator that the compactors would be hooked up to have supplementary power in the event of a power outage. The third use is this generator of this capacity would more than serve the needs of the town hall, and so this could be a unit that could be used to service the new town hall. And so for funding source for this purchase, there's 3 options really. One would be the Fire Rescue Equipment Capital Reserve, which has a current balance of $38,000. The select board would also have the ability to encumber money from 2019, the operating budget. Currently, there's about $359,000, which is an estimate, as unexpended operating budget appropriations. And I did note that $197,000 of that are from the budgets of fire and police. And so that's a funding source. And also, the 2020 operating budget has $50,000 budgeted for general government buildings, building maintenance, and that money, there's certainly a large portion of it has planned uses, but that's a funding source that is available. And I know the fire chief is here and is more familiar with the opportunity and be happy to speak to it if there's any additional questions.
Select person there.
I have no concerns on used propane engines and stuff. Like a forklift, they'll run forever and stuff. They're very clean running. You pull an old engine apart, it's like brand new in there. So there's no concern about the age, to me.
Do we have any idea what the hours are on these units?
Not at this time, but the fire chief does.
Approximately 700 hours.
700?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, this opportunity was presented to me, late last week, by former, select person O'Brien. He became aware of it. And in reality, I'm not big on, Christmas in December, near the end of the budget, let's buy a bunch of stuff because we have some money. But what I would ask you to consider is basically encumbering, these units are $7,500 each. So I would ask you to consider encumbering a set amount of money to really give us the opportunity to do legwork and determine that it's a good deal. And if it's not, you folks could simply revoke the PO. And the reason I'm asking this is, and again, I'm not a big proponent of spending money at the end of the year, is that you folks aren't scheduled to meet again before the budget year closes. And if we were to move in the direction of coming, doing work and coming back to you in the, just before the budget's going to pass and asking you to include X number of dollars into the budget for the purchase of these items, there's no guarantee they'd be available by the time the budget closed. So while I don't have any idea at this point whether it's a good deal or it isn't, I'm merely asking you to consider benchmarking that money to buy us enough time to work with the vendors. I learned a very valuable lesson when I put a tower up because I thought we could do it with a small slab. There's a lot of moving parts here, and so it's not anything that we can have a set in stone answer for you in the next day or two or whatever. So in reality, that's all I'm asking you to do, is to consider encumbering this money for the purchase of them. It may end up being, it could be $10,000 a unit to install them, and certainly that could be a game changer. So we don't have all the answers. This legitimately was thrown in my lap Thursday. I immediately called Connor up to ask if there was some interest in at least getting it out so that we could talk to you folks about it. I apologize for having little and no information, and that's really why I'm not asking you to give us permission to buy them. I'm just asking you to consider putting money away so that it buys us a few weeks. We could come to you in the first of the year and say, yeah, we think this makes sense, and you can vote on it, or you can vote that it doesn't make sense and put the money right back into the general fund.
Select person there.
I still have no concerns at 700 hours on that unit and stuff. And I agree with the chief which has better answers. Because sometimes I go auction and see something I get a deal on, I have no need for it. I'll buy it because I know someday I might need it. So it's all about money. If it's a cost effective, you can prove it, I'm for it. Thank you.
Select person Bailey.
The only questions some of the questions I'd have is that when they hook it up, they use an ABT, an automatic bus transfer on that. But also check the capacity of the building as to what it's going to use as to what the capacity is of the generator. so we don't buy something that's too large to take care of the building and incur possible, well, in the future, something might go wrong with the oversize, so that's why we ask, we make sure that it's sized out close to what we need.
Select person Hardikoff.
I'm curious how many times in, say, the past 5 years, we have not been able to run the transfer station due to a power outage. None that you know of?
There's only been a couple.
There's been 2 times that you
Yeah,
know
last
of?
couple, and I'm not sure how, we'd have to look in to see if the generator would even be able to.
Power
It could
the-
power the
yeah.
building, but I don't know if it would be able to, because it, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I think those are kind of my comments as well as
Yeah.
from looking at that generator size. So a 65 kilowatt generator is probably going to be massive overkill for a town hall, and will be probably oversized for some aspects of even the transfer station, depending on how the power feed comes in. So are they individual feeds, or does it come into one main system and then transfer out to there? And even the police and fire station, I feel like this is probably going to be even a bit large for you guys. But I'm okay with doing our due diligence to look at it.
And again, those were all questions we wanted to get answered. And again, it may well be that we come back to you in early January and say it doesn't make sense to move forward and to make it go.
These are probably 480 generators as well. Being that large with like a 220, which would mean you'd have to buy some step-down transformers if it's even a viable option.
Again, I know nothing about these things, but I promise you that I wouldn't even consider, we'll get answers, or we'll just, if they're...
And just so you know, transformers are between $3,000 and $5,000 depending on what you're buying.
Well, again, if it's $10,000 to hook it up and it's $3,000 for an automatic transfer switch, and then you have to buy a transformer or something, all of a sudden it starts driving the price up. Maybe you cut your losses and purchase something from the beginning that's the right thing.
Right.
And again, we don't have to buy both generators, and if it at the end of the day looked like it wasn't something that made sense for the highway department, or it wasn't something that made sense for the town hall, but did for the public safety building, then we consider purchasing one. If it doesn't make sense for any of them, we wouldn't purchase any of them. That would be my opinion anyway.
George?
I wouldn't mind encumbering the money if it would have look-see, and then we can always turn around and say, with his recommendations, whatever they are, vote on that.
I would agree with select person Ben.
So I'll make a motion that we encumber $15,000 for further discussion on January 6th.
If the support is to encumber the money from the 2019 operating budget, I would recommend $20,000. The $15,000 would just cover the purchase of the 2 units. And so I would recommend encumbering $20,000 if that's what the board wanted to do.
Just out of curiosity, why 20?
For installation, transportation, whatever might be necessary in addition. The $15,000 would just cover the purchase cost.
Yeah, 20's not going to cover your installation costs. I can tell you that right now.
And so throw a dart at dartboard. If you only intend to cover the purchase price from 2019 operating budget, 15,000 is the number. If you wanted to try to cover other installation costs, you could encumber more.
Select person there.
I think 5 apiece install, transportation, I think that's low. Electrician, hookups.
I'm feeling like at that point you could buy new ones under
Right.
warranty, and they place them for free.
I don't think they'll place it for free, but I don't know what the going rate is for, I don't know what everything needs to be sized at. That's the first piece, is figure out what you need for a size, and then you can price them, and then you look at going from there.
Will we have answers by January 6th on this?
I don't see why not, but I won't make any guarantees, especially with the holidays.
No, the cart is way in front of the horse on this one.
Way in front.
Well, I think I would certainly agree, and I know the fire chief would agree that the cart's way in front of the horse. The opportunity to for select board's consideration is only to consider if this is something that you think there's enough there to warrant more investigation and more thought, then an opportunity to encumber money from 2019 is here. And so if you think that there's not enough there to even continue, you don't need to encumber any money. If you do, you can. And so we recognize that the cart's in front of the horse, but this is an opportunity that we wanted to put in front of the select board for consideration.
I would expect, I think 25 would cover transfer switch, transportation. Well, you would be removing a diesel from the pad to put a propane in place, but now you gotta have a tank, you gotta have a line. There's
The propane's there at the public safety building, which is the reason we would want to go to a propane generator.
right, but how close is it to the current diesel generator?
It runs right by it, because that's how it goes into the building for the furnaces, within 10 feet.
So we just have to tee off of it in order to...
It may or may not be that simple.
You're making it sound, I'm like, underground trenching for the piping.
That stuff's there, it's already underground.
But the pipe has to be sized for the total usage, so you
Right.
don't know that until you get
Till you get into
Yes.
it and you figure all that out.
We might have
and-
to buy another tank.
or the piping would have to be upgraded to a larger size.
Right. There's a whole pile of variables here that,
Well, I don't think if we encumber the money, inspections show later after we've done our due diligence that it's not gonna work, then we just don't do it.
right.
Okay,
But
So
at least if we can do it,
25,000,
It's gonna get you a lot closer.
25,000.
I don't think it'll get everything, but
So
you
you made a
probably
motion,
should
did
be close.
anyone second the motion?
I'll second, that's I said earlier, 5 to be.
No, hang on.
I will make the motion for 25,000, to encumber up to $25,000.
Okay. And the second?
I'll do it. So you make the motion.
I'm not making the motion, he's
I'll
making
do
the
that.
motion,
I'll
you're
second it.
seconding the motion.
And then for discussion and
Can
stuff
we get
too,
chairperson back
Yes.
okay, start driving this meeting again, because I'm getting tired. Let's go.
at some point in time, batteries are getting more efficient and stuff, but they're really storage and stuff. And I think we might be swapping over them compared to generators, because they've really made big jumps on the battery storage lately.
Yeah, I can tell you I'm looking into it, but
So we have a motion, we have a second for 25,000 exploration to hopefully take place by January 6th.
thank you, Chairperson Hardikoff. Is there any other discussion?
Now, you first, you a second.
Roll call.
motion,
Roll call.
Here I.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
Sorry, chairperson, I knew where we were going. Let's get there.
Yes. There's also, under new business, a request to close the ambulance department sub-account that has a current balance of $2,853.50. The sub-account's no longer used. The fire chief and the treasurer support transferring the balance to general fund. Any discussion? Motion?
Motion to close the ambulance department sub-account.
Second.
And
transfer it to.
And direct the funds to.
Direct the town treasurer to transfer the remaining balance to general fund.
General fund.
Great.
Here I.
Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Nap aye.
And I apologize that it wasn't on the agenda in the report, but you do have a copy, and I followed up with an email. The select board had previously, in reviewing the call stipend and pay structure for call members, asked the fire chief to come back at the end of the year with a review of the available balance and an opportunity to give a disbursement of that money available to the members of the call force in Barrington based on the total number of hours accumulated. So what you see is the two funding sources for our call members. A portion was paid out of the line ending in 4121 and a portion out of 4112. So there were 1,703 hours paid out of the 4121 line and 744 hours paid out of the 4112 line. You see the current balance, remaining balance of both of those lines, and then you see disbursement options from $2 to $3.50 per point or per call hour, which show you how that would affect both of those remaining balances. And so you'll see that the disbursement, the additional disbursement of $2.50 a point is recommended by the fire chief, and the request would be for the select board to make a determination.
Open for a conversation.
And so the $2.50 would increase the value of a point from $15 to $17.50 for the 1,703 points out of 4121, and the same for the 744 points out of 4112.
And that figure is still below the recommended compensation data that we looked at for entry-level firefighting, correct?
Correct.
I would make a motion to approve this.
I'll second the motion.
Air aye.
Bailey, aye.
Article 5?
Nap aye.
Thank you.
So that will leave us with a balance in the accounts of, looks like approximately 10,000. It was written somewhere. I think it was an email.
Yeah, so
But it was 10,000 and change.
and I will add that, you know, in working with department heads preparing for the budget process, they've all provided year-end estimates. And so not knowing what decision the select board would make out of those lines, the fire chief had previously estimated that those lines would be fully expended. So what? Expended, thank you, fully expended. So
$482.
that $10,482 will reflect additional unexpended money from the estimates with the action. So again, conservatively estimating what the year end will be, and so we'll end up in a more favorable position with that utilization.
All right. With that said, select persons reports, select person there.
There was no, conservation, but it was a town's land meeting Saturday morning. And, it's a great group and very educated and stuff, and I'm glad to be part of it. And they've got a long list of homework to do this winter. And they're gonna have to come up with a recommendation on a bunch of, town-owned lands and stuff, and then, do research on it. And I need to do some, research on them too at town hall. Everyone get a list. I don't make a decision, but there is some information needs to be gathered from town hall. It's personal, so I'll get that and provide to the board which ones that we need more homework on. But it was a very good meeting, and then we went for a walk in the rain. Got wet up behind the highway garage on the trail and stuff. And we might add this to the list, the forester and stuff, because we own there's no deed restrictions or anything. We own it outright, and that forest has a lot of canopy on it. A lot of trees are dying, no undergrowth, and that would be a good place to start to show people organized management of town forests and stuff, how it benefits the environment, and that's it.
Select person Daly.
Thank you. My meeting is tomorrow night, and also on Wednesday, I have been asked to be there for the CBA, so I will also be able to comment back at the next meeting where Select Person Hatch would be attending. If she attends this meeting on Wednesday, then there would be no need for the bid meeting, but I'd be there for it.
Very good. Select person Hardikoff.
The Recreation Commission took place, their meeting took place at 6 o'clock tonight. I was unable to attend, but I would like to thank the Recreation Commission for making meeting minutes of all prior meetings available in draft form on our website and for review.
Very Very good. Planning board meetings tomorrow, so I have no meetings.
Awesome.
Final public comment?
Justin Prepper, Brewster Road. On this turbo cams thing that we're going on, we're talking about, who's going to enforce turbo cam to apply to all the stipulations that they've been asked to do? They were supposed to put an athletic field in on the first go around. It's not done yet. Now we're going to give them more land to put a building up when the initial work has not been done. I mean, I sat through all the meetings with my fathers and a butter. We sat through the meetings in the beginning stages of this, the first building, and that was the discussion we had, was they were going to give an athletic field in the back of the property, and it's not going to construct it. So who's going to make sure the fill's placed, make sure everything's where it needs to be? And that's just a question I have, as my parents was in a butter and they grew up there.
There was an updated thing, I don't know if it was in Connor's, since you did last year, or John, but I believe everything was supposed to be updated on the MOU or part of that thing.
So the town is under a development agreement, has a development agreement with TurboCam, the business. And that development agreement does a few things. It sets requirements, it also sets goals for the use of the property. And so without knowing what specifically you're citing where TurboCam agreed to develop an athletic field, the closest I can think to what I've seen, what I've read in the documents available, the agreements available, is that that property was originally developed by TurboCam, and by developed I mean subdivided, and the road was constructed, adding value to all of those lots. And so each one of the lots that was part of the subdivision was built into the development agreement, and built into the development agreement in such a way that by a date certain, TurboCam would construct a facility on each one of those lots. And they were dates going out to 2028, I believe. And so and also stipulated that TurboCam would have the right of first refusal for any purchase of those lots if the town were approached with somebody wanting to develop sooner. And so the only lot which wasn't included in that development agreement the same way was map 234 lot 1.6, which is the lot in the back. And that was reserved for recreation use. And so, I'm not aware of any agreement, any document which indicates that TurboCam agreed to develop that into athletic fields. What I am familiar with is that all of the plans for the subdivision had earmarked that lot, if you will, for recreation use, and indicated that the town would retain that lot and retain the ability to develop it for recreation use in the future. The only other thing I can think about is there were certain portions of the development agreement which indicate goals of the development, so not necessarily a requirement. And one portion of that was the development of recreation trails on the portions of the lot that TurboCam developed, as they've done on other property. And so those same